Ever felt like no matter what you do, things just don't seem to go your way? Or maybe you always expect bad things to happen, right? Even if things are going fine. So you might be dealing with what we're going to call and what we're going to identify as depressive traits. And don't worry, it's more common than you think. And in this video, we're going to talk about those depressive traits and how they might be showing up in your personality. And we're not just going to identify it. I'm also going to share 5 simple steps that help you understand and deal with them. So you're not at the mercy of your traits. You can manage them and control them. By the end of this video, you'll know even more about why you feel this way sometimes and what you can do about it. So we're going to dive right in. Now, first and foremost, remember that depressive traits aren't the same as a full-blown depression. It's like always feeling kind of yuck, right? Even when nothing's really wrong. And sometimes you can't even identify it. Like you feel kind of down. You feel kind of sad. You feel kind of worn out. And what this does is it adversely impacts how you see the world and see yourself. Now, back in the day, we used to call this depressive personality disorder. And that meant that the individual saw themselves, others, and their world through a lens of depression, as opposed to major depressive disorder, which would be more episodic. Like there'd be periods of time where you feel okay, you're having pretty normal, let's say, or average reactions to different situations. You could feel good about some stuff, feel bad about some stuff, worry about some stuff, feel restless, right? When you're not quite sure, feeling bland or blah, stuff like that. But what happens is that then you slide into a depressive episode, and that's where you might feel hopeless, helpless, worthless. You don't find enjoyment in the things that you used to, in the things that you used to do, being around the people that you used to hang out with. And in that, what I want you to do is, I want you to think about the last time someone invited you to hang out, right? Did you think no one really wants me here? And instead, you stayed home. Now, that's a sign of the traits that we're talking about. That tendency. Traits are really just tendencies, but how we respond to different situations internally and externally. So those depressive traits are people invite you out and you're like, nobody really wants me around, so I'm just going to stay home. And you do this over and over again. And what happens is those depressive outlook, that perspective, adversely, negatively impacts your life, right? So what about when you're trying to pick a snack or like a TV show, right? You're trying to watch something on TV, Netflix, right? But nothing feels quite right and you can't decide. That's another way that these depressive traits can show up. It can really relate to your sense of self-worth, your sense of value. And they may seem like really small choices or options or opportunities, things like that. But we see this pattern over time. And that's really what personality is that they're ongoing, prolonged patterns of perceptions and behaviors. Their beliefs, behaviors, and patterns. And the disorder part is when they become maladaptive, right? When they start adversely impacting how you live your life. So can you relate to what I'm saying? And if you can, put some comments in the comment section and put your thoughts in there, because I think a lot of people benefit from them. And it's also more important to talk about, if you were able to overcome it and manage it, how you did that. But let's go a little deeper, though. Let's get a little more information for you, which is the difference between depressive traits and depression. Now, I kind of tapped into this just a moment ago, but let's do a little bit of a deeper dive, okay? So hang on. Now, first, we got to clear something up. Depressive traits are different from depression, right? Just like we talked about. Depression is like this heavy storm that comes and goes, right? It's the episode. It's episodic, right? Because you may go back to that period of time where you're having a pretty normative response to things that are going on, as opposed to feeling down and feeling sad and hopeless, helpless, and worthless. But those depressive traits, when it becomes trait-based, then we see that they're like that cloudy day that never really clears up. It happens time and time and time again. Now, you might not feel super sad all the time, but you also never feel super happy either. You're kind of stuck, right? It's like you're stuck in the mud. Like you want to go running. There's a part of you that wants to run, wants to expend some energy, so to speak, right? But you can't because that mud is kind of wrapped around your feet, your legs, so you can't go forward. You can't move at the pace you want to go because you feel held back. You feel constricted. And that's the depressive traits because of the perspective, because of how you see yourself. It's that gloomy, cloudy view of self that keeps getting in the way. Now, depressive traits can be more like bad habits, and your brain can get stuck in habits because we know human beings are adaptive. So because we're adaptive, we can adapt to positive situations, adaptive situations, or negative, maladaptive situations. But you got to know, even if you're recognizing some of these depressive traits in yourself, doesn't mean you're doomed. Doesn't mean you don't have a choice. Let's talk about 5 simple steps. What are 5 things you can do to help yourself out? First and foremost, and this is the most important, that's why it's number 1, right? Is that you got to catch those negative thoughts. You've got to recognize them first. Now, it's not going to be, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and magically you're going to do it every time. You have to catch yourself. For example, if you're saying to yourself, I know that I'm going to fail, stop and ask yourself, well, what is actually true here? Am I really going to fail? What is the evidence that shows that I'm going to fail? You have to challenge those things. Also, moving on to number 2, you were moving right along. This is nice, right? So number 2 is we got to celebrate these small wins. You want to set tiny goals for yourself, like picking your clothes out for tomorrow, picking that TV show, right? Picking that snack, whatever it is. And when you do it, give yourself a pat on the back. It doesn't have to be a whole parade, right? But recognize the things you're able to do. Don't allow it to all be skewed negative so you only see the things you can't do. You got to be aware of that too. Recognize the things that you can do. And that's what I'm talking about when I say small wins. Now, try to talk it out, right? Even when you don't feel like it, you could call a friend or chat with someone, or if you feel like this is really pervasive and it's really kind of messing up how you're living your life and you achieving your goals, what I want you to do is maybe seek out a mental health provider who can help you out. And talking to someone and getting it out can make a huge difference. Absolutely, right? Now we're up to number 4. I want you to practice self-kindness. People talk about it and they put it on Instagram and they put it out there, but how many people really practice it, right? We have to practice it, particularly if you're dealing with depressive traits. Absolutely, because it's that push towards the negative. Well, we got to push back, and being kind to yourself really matters. When you mess up, because all of us mess up, don't be hard on yourself. Recognize that those are opportunities to learn. You've probably heard that, and you've seen 1,000 little postings on Instagram and wherever else. Recognize that that's pretty normal. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Your mistakes don't equate to you being a failure. That's that depression talking to you. That's the depression skewing your perception. We don't want to do that. And again, remember that everybody is going to make mistakes, and that's completely and totally normal. Now, for the last one, just like I mentioned before, finding a mental health provider. And finding a mental health provider can sometimes be like finding a candy bar that's super yummy, right? It's that there's candy bars out there, but which one is best for you? Right? There's some that I like. I really like dark chocolate Milky Ways. Always have. Always one of my favorites. Also like Reese's peanut butter cups. But there are ones that I'm not too crazy about. All right? Never been crazy about a Zagnut, or Butterfinger. I don't know. Just not crazy about those. There's other people that really like those. That's cool. And that's like a mental health provider. You can find that mental health provider that really clicks with you. One that you're like, that's my Reese's peanut butter cup. And I'm not saying bite into your mental health provider because I don't want you to do that. But what we're talking about is finding one that is good for you, one that fits, one that feels right, because that's really, really important. And recognize that those suppressive traits are always going to skew to the negative. Oh, I didn't like him or her. They were like this. They were like that. Well, listen to those things, but balance those things. Remember, we're talking about challenging the negative and also finding what facts and data support your perspective. And it's that balance. Don't skew negative. We want to look for that benefit, that cost and benefit, and being able to balance it. Now, remember, having depressive traits, it doesn't mean you're stuck feeling bad forever. absolutely doesn't mean it. Not at all. Not at all. You can work through it. Do one step at a time. Don't do all 5 of the steps that I just mentioned. Do one at a time. And have you ever felt like your thoughts are just too negative? I mean, that's a component as well. That's probably what got you to click on the video to learn more about it. Well, I want you to add some information in the comments. Is what are those thoughts or those things that you may be thinking and feeling that you feel are too negative? Now, if we're talking about self-harm, then it's exceptionally important that you reach out and talk to someone. That is critical, absolutely critical, okay? But if you found this video helpful, I want you to hit that subscribe button. That's cool. You can check out more of my videos too. But really, monitor, keep track of when those depressive traits are kicking up. When are those depressive issues kicking up? And separate out, is this a trait that I have, like a prolonged tendency to see the negative, or are there just episodes and periods where I feel down? Because that's really important, because when you talk to your dark chocolate Milky Way or your Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, which is your mental health provider, you want to be able to explain it really well and understand it. And they can help you build more insight, and building insight will help you catch it and help you manage it. And going from maladaptive perspectives, like the depression traits we're talking about, going to adaptive ones that can help you do things differently can sometimes make all the change in the world. Hope you found this helpful, and I will see you next time.